Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Friday, January 29th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. It will soon be the latest weapon on the war against the coronavirus, a new vaccine with ties to San Diego County. Today, Johnson & Johnson announced how effective their single-dose shot is at fighting off the virus. And while it's not as high as others, KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman says it has other benefits.
National City Mayor Alejandra Sotelo Solis is part of Johnson & Johnson's COVID-19 vaccination trial. She got her shot back in November.
I'm good. I survived.
And today, the company is announcing data from clinical trials with more than 40,000 people showing the vaccine is 72% effective in the U.S. and 66% effective overall.
And the results really are very encouraging.
Data shows this new vaccine doesn't work as well as ones from Moderna and Pfizer, which are about 95% effective. But the nation's top infectious disease expert, Dr. Anthony Fauci, says there are other benefits.
This is a single-shot vaccine in which you start to see efficacy anywhere from 7 to 10 days following the first and only shot.
Currently, all vaccinations in San Diego County are being done using Moderna and Pfizer doses, which require 2 shots. People who are able to get appointments right now then have to come back 3 weeks later. The Johnson & Johnson vaccines also don't require a deep freeze. Plus,
it is inexpensive, and the company is capable of making doses in the numbers of billions. This really tells us that we have now a value-added additional vaccine candidate.
Dr. Fauci also points out the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is about 85% effective overall in preventing severe disease, and it could be vital as San Diego and the nation is faced with more contagious variants of the virus.
The fundamental principle of getting people vaccinated as quickly and as efficiently as you possibly can will always be the best way to prevent the further evolution of any mutant, because when you do that, you prevent replication, and replication is essential for mutation.
I got my blood drawn.
Just last week, Sotelo Solis reached the 70-day milestone for her Johnson & Johnson trial. While she isn't sure if she got the vaccine or a placebo shot, she had another checkup and said she was feeling fine. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
A third super vaccination station is coming to San Diego County this weekend. KPBS North County reporter Jacob Ayer says the new location is at Cal State University San Marcos.
Starting Saturday at noon, San Diegans in Phase 1A, or those 65 and older, can book appointments to get vaccinated for COVID-19 at the new CSU San Marcos Super Vaccination Station. The location will start administering the shots Sunday morning and plans to eventually give up to 5,000 vaccinations a day. Hours for the site are 9:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Sunday through Thursday.
We are sponsoring this site in partnership with the university, along with some staffing support from Tri-City Healthcare, UC San Diego, and Palomar Health.
The new clinic will be at the Sports Center in Clark Fieldhouse on the CSU San Marcos campus. The location is a walk-up site like the Superstation in Chula Vista. Free parking will be available for the Superstation at Parking Structure 1, which is across the road. Disabled parking will be offered directly in front of the Sports Center.
We have a testing site just on the other side of campus, and we wanted to continue that partnership and really kind of do our part in helping curb this the spread of COVID. So here's an opportunity. We have this facility. We're fully virtual right now, and so this facility's sitting here. So it was a no-brainer for us and the county.
With the addition of the San Marcos location, there are now 3 super sites in 7 smaller scale centers called community pods across the county.
We have plans very quickly to get a 4th one up in East County sometime next week. And so we're continuing to add pods, continuing to add superstations and continuing to ramp up the availability we can. But again, this is all contingent upon the supply of vaccine.
While scheduling appointments has been difficult for some San Diegans, the county launched an interactive map showing all of the vaccination sites where appointments can be made. To schedule one for yourself or a loved one, go to vaccinationsd.com. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
Want to do your part and help during this pandemic? The Vaccination Superstation at Petco Park is looking for some 300 volunteers. The extra staffing will help reduce the waiting and speed up the process. UCSD Health is looking for people who are medically trained and non-medically trained. And one plus, you get vaccinated.
To help with running things, supplies, and passing out information, with helping navigate where people are supposed to go. Anybody who is volunteering at our Vaccination Superstation will have the opportunity, if they choose, to be vaccinated.
If you're interested, you can sign up through UCSD Health's website. Volunteers must be 18 or older and are asked to cover at least 3 shifts. The White House is hoping to break through the stalemate in COVID stimulus negotiations and taking its message to the people. Daryl Forges has the latest from Washington.
The White House mounting a full court press to pass President Biden's COVID relief package.
The risk is not doing too much. The risk is not doing enough.
In an Oval Office meeting with the president and vice president, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen emphasized the need to jumpstart the pandemic economy.
Economists agree that if there's not more help, many more people will lose their small businesses, the roofs over their heads, and the ability to feed their families.
On Capitol Hill, there's a stalemate over the president's $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill. Republicans say the bill, which includes a call to raise the minimum wage, is just too big.
What we don't want to see is a trillion-dollar bill, multi-trillion-dollar bill that is really just going to fund a lot of long-standing Democratic priorities, not things that are going to help us get over the pandemic.
Democrats, now with slim majorities in both houses, putting in place a plan to pass the package.
The work must move forward, preferably with our Republican colleagues, but without them if we must.
But in order to do that, every Democrat must be on board. The vice president taking the administration's message to people in Arizona and West Virginia, 2 states with moderate Democrat senators who need to sign off on COVID relief in order to get a deal done.
The American people deserve their leaders to step up and stand up for them.
In Washington, Daryl Forges, KPBS News.
A new bill signed today by Governor Newsom will protect millions of Californians facing economic hardship due to COVID-19. SB 91 extends the state's eviction moratorium through the end of June. The rental assistance program allocates $2.6 billion to help struggling tenants and small property owners.
It is a mistake to make this bill just a matter of winners and losers. I think we all know that. Those of us pushing to get this done knew that there were literally homes and lives at stake. This bill represents a reprieve, but not a release. Nevertheless, based on what we were able to do, I'm hopeful we will have more success for the long term.
The legislation pauses evictions for tenants who declare an inability to pay rent for COVID-related reasons. Governor Newsom says this legislation leads all states with the strongest renter protection in the country. Well, we need the rain, and it's just when it comes all at once that is the problem. Several parts of the county dealing with flooding. Mission Valley and Imperial Beach having to close some roads. Imperial Beach Boulevard and Seacoast Road experiencing the same flash flood issues like here near the Mission Valley Mall and Camino de la Reina. Officials want to remind you not to drive through flooded areas. We also caught hail coming down in the Birdland area and, of course, more snow falling in higher elevations. As for whether there's any more rain on the way, Melissa Constanzer has your forecast.
Some good news. We're finally getting a chance to dry out a little bit, but we will be staying cool as we do it. And then we're talking about more rain next week, though, so it's a pretty far off trend right now as we get towards Tuesday and Wednesday. Currently, though, the temperatures a bit on the chilly side. We're in the 40s here, 40 for Oceanside as we head through, I should say, tonight. That'll be early tomorrow morning when we realize we're near 40 degrees, 28 in Mount Laguna. So there are certainly some chilly spots out there. Still some clouds, at least to begin with. The good news is as we go through the night, we start to get rid of some of those clouds. And again, a lot of the moisture leaves us, so we're not talking about any more showery weather heading through tonight. And yes, a dry break, a needed dry break. It will be a bit on the cool side through a good chunk of the southwest as that storm system is gone. In fact, it's going to create more problems for the Central Plains and East Coast. But for us, we're looking at sunshine and just a couple of clouds out there. Temperatures back into the lower 60s for many locations, including San Diego, which keeps us a bit below average. Again, this is part of that cool trend that we have as we head through tomorrow. Now, what does the rest of the weekend bring? Well, the temperatures will start to moderate a bit day by day, which is some good news as high pressure builds in. There's a new storm system in town, though, that one to Northern California, and that's where the rain will be at least for the next couple of days before it starts to slide southward and eventually brings us the chance for moisture heading into next Tuesday and Wednesday. Really Tuesday night into Wednesday, we could see some showers out there. But for the coast, we're just going to talk about more clouds as we go to next early week. Otherwise, though, a warming trend into this weekend. Sunday looking warmer back to the mid-60s. Meanwhile, inland locations making it to the lower 70s. Again, expect more clouds heading through the middle of next week. That's when maybe we could see our next chance for a shower or two. It also gets windy towards the mountains, but temperatures climbing through the 40s for your mountain forecast the next few days. And in the deserts, we will make it back to the 60s and lower 70s by early Monday. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Melissa Constanzer.
Take a look at this. Hail, rain, and wind disrupted play at the Farmers Insurance Open. The PGA tournament at Torrey Pines was already hampered by the pandemic this year, with no fans allowed to attend. As the calls to let them play continue, 2 local high school athletes are suing the state and county to resume youth sports. The lawsuit claims there's no evidence the activities increase COVID-19 transmission and that restrictions are being made arbitrarily. It comes as football coaches and student athletes from San Diego and the Bay Area called again on Governor Newsom to speed up the return of school sports. They argued that canceling these activities has contributed to rising dropout rates, failing grades, depression, and suicidal thoughts.
It's hard and it's emotional. For me, everything ended as soon as we couldn't play football. For me, I cannot just participate in school while just everything is going on. I'm trying my best to, and it's hard. It's hard to stay motivated.
San Diego District Attorney Summer Stephan was also at today's event, and she said that since schools have been closed, reports of child exploitation are skyrocketing, with her office seeing increases in child sex trafficking and gang-related homicides.
This needs to be a priority, to come to the table and look at how we reduce this harm to our kids.
Ron Gladnick, the head football coach at Torrey Pines High School, said he was initially encouraged by talks with the governor about resuming youth sports, but says nothing has come of it so far. He said 3 million kids in California deserve a greater sense of urgency from our government. As we've been reporting, people 65 and older can now get the COVID-19 vaccine, but in Imperial County, a low supply means they're being left out in the cold. Literally. iNewsSource investigative reporter Jennifer Bowman has more.
Several hundred people in line before the sun came up, chairs, tents, and canopies sitting on the sidewalk. The demand was so high at first come, first served clinics for older residents in Imperial County this month that many waited for hours only to be turned away. Adolph Edward, CEO of the El Centro Hospital, which held one of the clinics, said improvements will be made.
I want to share with everybody that in healthcare, we actually believe in continuous quality improvement. And in continuous improvement means we look at everything that we do.
The biggest challenge in Imperial and elsewhere, there isn't enough of the vaccine to go around, even for a county that's been one of the hardest hit in the state by COVID-19. Here's Jeanette Angulo, the county's public health director.
It's
devastating for our communities, you know, what they've had to go through. And it's only fair that the needed resources make it to our communities and make it to the most vulnerable.
So far, that hasn't happened in Imperial County. Officials are now pleading with the state for more vaccine doses. For KPBS, I'm iNews Source investigative reporter Jennifer Bowman.
For more on Imperial County's COVID-19 efforts, go to inewssource.org. iNews Source is an independently funded nonprofit partner of KPBS. Dr. Shirley Weber is making history as California's first African-American Secretary of State.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
Madam Secretary of State.
Thank you.
You're virtual.
The former assembly member from San Diego was sworn in by the governor today to cheers from those watching online. So far, no date has been set for the special election to fill Weber's 79th district seat. San Diego city officials are seeking your input on a new deal for electric and gas services. Mayor Todd Gloria is restarting a bidding process for the city's electric and gas franchises. Those are the deals that have SDG&E pay the city to use public land for its gas and power lines. Gloria wants the next agreement to have stronger clean energy commitments, among other things. And he's partnering with city council members on at least 9 virtual town halls in February.
I cannot tell you how important it is for District 9 at least to ensure that at the end of this process, San Diegans no longer feel like big decisions are made behind closed doors and that big corporate entities are the only people who have a seat at the table. We want to open this process up.
Today, the city launched a public survey on the franchise deal, which you can find at sandiego.gov/sustainability. The mayor plans on releasing new requirements for the next franchise agreements in March. The Port of San Diego just endured a brutal financial year thanks to the pandemic. KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson recently spoke with the Port Commission chair about the unprecedented challenges.
On the one hand, you know, cruise ships, hotels, restaurants, convention-based businesses, not a good year for those tenants and for those entities, and to the extent they pay rent to the port, that's been a particularly challenging part of our book of business. Luckily, we're also quite diversified, provide a lot of cargo, marine terminals. Dole is still shipping billions of bananas every year. We're still handling a lot of cargo. Shipbuilders and ship repair is still thriving. You know, hundreds of thousands of cars from Asia still coming. And so, you know, we're sort of just navigating all of that. Luckily, as an organization, we had substantial financial reserves, which we have used this year. I think this is the definition of a rainy day as it relates to public entities, and so we've used that. The big question is, you know, is this summer really the beginning again of some form of normalcy? That's the optimistic view and maybe the base case, but who the heck knows?
Has this financial crunch inhibited your ability to do what you feel is necessary for the port to do for the people of San Diego?
So we have a need to spend money to maintain these lands, and we've been able to do that. We have definitely cut a lot of expenses. We've deferred certain capital projects. We've instituted a hiring freeze. Our employees have given back pay increases. So there has been sacrifice, but in terms of delivering those services, we've continued. In fact, you know, these parks and this open space and access to the waterfront has been particularly important during the pandemic because, you know, that's some safe outdoor socially distanced activities that we can do.
When you think of the year ahead, what do you think of?
You know, continued navigation of the pandemic and continuing on with those services. The port, you know, is responsible for tens of thousands of jobs, you know, cargo and goods that are important for San Diego and for our region and for the country, frankly. So continuing on all of that is number one. Number two, we've got some transitions at the port that are happening. We have some new commissioners. We have a new president and CEO. Third, we have a number of projects in the pipeline, some high-profile projects related to reimagining Seaport Village, the Chula Vista Bayfront project, and a number of others that are important. And then for me personally, the initiative this year that I've really identified and I'm going to be working on is clean air. The port obviously engages in a lot of activities that affect our environment, and particularly as it relates to diesel truck trips through some portside communities.
If you think about the port today, and then think about where the port will be in 5 years, what transition can we expect?
Well, I think for starters, we could be on our way to a fully electrified port. And not just in terms of diesel truck traffic, but that's something that is a possibility within the next decade. And to get there in 10 years, we have to start now with charging infrastructure, with shore power and microgrids, and dealing with cruise ships and everything else. And so I think you'll see an energy and a greenhouse gas emission and diesel emission transformation of the port over the next 5 to 10 years.
The GameStop market frenzy continues to captivate investors and the internet. It's a battle between Wall Street heavyweights, small investors, and popular stock trading apps. SDSU's Miro Kopik has more in the Friday Business Report.
The internet is really driven by grassroots movements. And I can go back and, if you look at finance, you look at Occupy Wall Street. If there was more fun earlier this summer when TikTok users registered en masse for Donald Trump's Oklahoma rally in June of 2020, and there's a very big Reddit forum called Wall Street Bets, which all of a sudden just picked on these various stocks that were really kind of languishing. You look at a GameStop, which is the big story, and it closed today at over $325 a share, right? They could become the next Blockbuster or Radio Shack any day now. And so right now, these hedge funds are being trolled for over $5 billion. So they've already had to pay that out. At some point, this stock price is going to drop from $325, which is absolutely unsustainable, to some level, whatever it may be. And the lesson learned is that if you don't bet on it unless you're ready to cover your position, and that applies to small investors as the same way these hedge fund managers have learned the hard way this week.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, a new COVID vaccine shows promising results, even though it is somewhat less effective than others. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
This weekend, you can choose from a dystopian Ukrainian art house film, an opera inspired by Edgar Allan Poe, and a police thriller with Denzel Washington. KPBS cinema junkie Beth Accomando reviews your weekend options.
You, your fathers and your grandfathers worked long and hard to produce a decent living for your families, but times are changing.
Atlantis is a film that deserves to be in a cinema where it can command a viewer's full attention. I worry that this slow, elegantly crafted film may lose people who are watching at home where distractions abound. Eastern Ukraine has become uninhabitable, but people traverse the desert to explode old mines and exhume bodies left by a war. Director Valentin Vasyanovich constructs his film in a series of 28 shots, mostly from a slightly distant and static camera. The lengthy shots may test the patience of viewers accustomed to rapid cuts that assume attention spans are a mere few seconds. But each shot is beautifully and carefully designed so that if you wait and pay attention, you'll be rewarded. Atlantis is a remarkable film, but you need to give it your full attention to appreciate it. The restrictions of the pandemic have unexpectedly opened up opportunities for audiences to see things that they might not have had access to before. Case in point is the Boston Lyric Opera's newly commissioned film version of Philip Glass's opera, The Fall of the House of Usher. Based on Edgar Allan Poe's Gothic horror tale, the filmed version of the opera employs amazing hand-drawn and stop-motion animation, along with archival footage, to create a COVID-safe production. Director James Dara works from a new treatment by Spanish writer Raul Santos. It reimagines Poe's story with a contemporary political context. It's an ambitious idea, but Poe's work doesn't really lend itself to contemporary politics. The social commentary feels a bit forced and not altogether successful, but the stunning mixed media visual style and compelling score by Glass still make this worth checking out.
Things probably changed a lot since you left.
You still got to catch him, right?
Yeah.
Not that much has changed then, right?
The Little Things offers a solid crime thriller with strong performances, but it arrives at a moment in time when its story and point of view feel out of sync with recent events. The film involves a Kern County sheriff played by Denzel Washington and an LA homicide sergeant played by Rami Malek, tracking a serial killer in 1990. As a police procedural, it's fine and even compelling as it looks at how a case can turn into an obsession.
This is the part where I start feeling like it's a trap.
But the problem comes when it ultimately is about turning a blind eye to corruption within law enforcement.
It's the little things, Jimmy. It's the little things that rip you apart. It's the little things that get you caught.
At a time when we've been made acutely aware of police brutality, this film feels painfully tone deaf. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.